Take a look inside.
What else was I going to show? Oh yeah. Let me open up that last one. I didn't talk about this. I worked out this kind of technique for some of the finger drumming stuff I'm doing, because one of the first guys I saw doing this, who's absolutely incredible, is Jeremy Ellis. He's amazing. But most of the stuff I ever saw him do was like more hip hop tempo, and so I was trying to learn what he was doing, trying to copy some of his lessons and stuff, and it's awesome. But I couldn't find I could play with the same technique to play at the speed of house music or play a lot of house patterns. It was just getting too fast for me. Maybe if I keep practicing, but not yet. But so I was like, man, it's got to be an easier way. So I worked out this thing where it's actually I can do it with this as well. I just kind of think about it like 16th notes, and as if each hand is playing 16ths, just right hand on and left hand on the actual 16th. So if you're doing this all the way through the bar, you can slice up a lot of dance music into different 16th note hits. There's not usually much more rhythm complicated than that, the occasional triplet. So I was thinking, well, what's on those hits? You know, that you've got the kick and snare on the all the way through, or the offbeat. If you're doing it with the 8th notes on one hand, you can kind of just rock one hand and have. And then if you're filling in the gaps with the other hand, it's pretty much like you're just playing 16th notes. It makes, I mean, there's still a little bit of, if you want to get crazy with the patterns, it starts getting a bit more complicated. But, I mean, you can be doing just stuff like, and it's just really like right, left, but I'm dividing between fingers. So you can like just kind of jam out like that. That kind of helped me a lot, and let me try a couple of other things. Like even that one I was playing before, where was it? That more trap one. Even this one sounds kind of more like there's a lot going on, but it's really just 16ths. Like there's one hand can do. The other hand's really just doing hats and other percussion elements. So if you do it real slow, you get. And then you can flick between more things. Like. But you're really just keeping this motion, which apart from being a bit more simplified, it helps you keep your time. Because, you know, if I'm going to pull this out in a club in between a bunch of really perfectly rigid club records, if the time doesn't feel right, people might go, oh, yeah, that's kind of interesting, but I'm not going to dance to it. Like, it's going to still need to feel right. So it needs to feel comfortable enough for you to confidently play it, I think. And more so, I'm thinking that more and more, because then you can expand on it. Once you got your rock solid thing down, you can improvise. You get that mic going.
Cool. So, do you have any sort of like? Are you usually having your right hand for certain sounds, like when you're finger drumming? Because I kind of notice like your right hand's mostly like kick drums. Do you have any tips for that, or like where you place certain sounds on the pads?
Yeah, totally. Good question. I generally more think about it as in like if you're thinking like the 16th and 8th notes, anything that falls on those 8th notes, the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, is generally my right hand. Anything on the ones in between, I'd put as my left hand. It's a little bit easier when it's just 2 fingers. When it starts to get 3, 4, it gets a little bit harder. But that's really just I use that just for moving around to get to the other pads. Most stuff is monophonic like that, like Like it never really has two things hitting at the same time. I'll try and work out stuff where if I need two sounds, like I've got a kick and a stab together. I've got the same the snare, but I've got a regular snare too in case I need it, which also cuts the kick off, which is nice because you're gonna have. But otherwise, there's some where I'll do multiple hits together, like this one. And that's where the pad layout comes in a little bit more. Like I keep experimenting with it, but generally my kicks are lower down and usually either on the one of the middle two things, because I like to keep a bit of room so that you can move your hands around to get to other bits. I kind of like this kit layout. It's been really fun to jam on, where I've got two kicks down here of different pitch, snares in the middle. Hats is yellow up here because you can easily move, and if I need to do something with kicks with the left hand or right hand, it's fine. Like you can get to it either way, but I don't know. I think it does change a little bit for this stuff where I'm trying to accomplish a certain track and recreate it. Sometimes there's only one way possible I can think of to even just fit them all on 16 pads. Like this one where it starts to get a little bit, lots going on. There's like stabs around here. That one triggers a couple of beeps. Snares over here, a couple of white noise. And between that, it kind of pulls it all together, but it fills up the whole thing straight away. And like you're having to do like 3 on one hand each time. And then switching to... So you're doing different, it's almost like guitar fingering or something. You got to keep moving. Like, I mean, my drumming background helps me for sure with the rhythm, but the fact that you have to use different fingers, I think if you were a piano player, you'd have an advantage for sure. Like, because normally with drums, it's just one stick in each hand, using both feet, but you're not having to divide what your hand's doing into 4 different things. So that's something new I'm trying to learn each time as well. But does that sort of help out? Yeah? Cool. All right, let me see. What else can I show you about those? Oh, got something there?
Yeah. About those 3 techniques that you've been using, like DJing, and then some live programming, sequencing over CD tracks, and then the finger drumming. Are those like the 3 techniques that you've noticed worked the best with audiences? Like because people notice what's happening and stuff like that?
It's a good question. Yeah, I think it's a couple of reasons I do it. I do it because I think if I did just one of them all night, it wouldn't be as special. It might get a little bit might get a little boring. Like I nerd out hard when I see guys like finger drum for 2 hours. I think it's awesome, but I don't know if everyone else does. So it's cool. I feel like if I usually space it out, and like the finger drumming stuff I'll probably only do maybe 3 or 4 tracks in a 2-hour set, and then that way I'll play some records in between. Because I still love DJing, and I'll do some stuff where I'm layering it and jamming, which feels more like the techno vibe of playing with a drum machine, and like it's really fun to make build-ups, and you can do scene capture stuff and everything. I mean, that's one of the other thing I really like about it, that like for the audience sake, is that I can pick this up and show that to them as well. I can't do that with every one of those styles. Like some of the finger drumming stuff, if it's 2 hands, I can't hold it up in the air. If it's a one-handed simple part, like I like where I can have tracks like this where I've got a 2-handed part, but there's a section where I can still play. Like I can pick this bit up and do. And show them a little bit of that. And I think that's really helped a lot, being able to show the crowd what I'm doing here as well. I was saying to D-Raj before when we're talking, I used to do a complete live set years ago, like all in Ableton, all hardware, I had a bunch of my samples from my tracks, but I'd improvise a bunch with it. It was all set up, lots of prep work so you could improvise the crap out of all your tracks. And I'd still have people coming up to me going, "Can you play some Ministry of Sound?" And I'd be like, "Oh, dude, I'm like, I'm doing so much shit here that you just don't get, do you?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. That's why I'm asking, because I've done that. You stand there and people come up and ask for songs. They have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah, it's a little bit disheartening, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, because you put in so much effort and everything, and unfortunately, at the time when I was doing this, I ended up going, you know what? I'm probably better off. This is back in Australia. I'm probably better off putting my energy into writing more records and more studio time, getting more tracks finished, and I'll just DJ for now. I'll just go back to just DJing. I still love DJing, but it's if they don't get it, fine. This has given me a nice compromise where I can have a little bit of both, and it's nice to have that back again. Now that I'm doing it this way, I don't think I'd go back to full live. I kind of like that. It's nice to be able to have, it gives it an extreme and a contrast between you're DJing most of the time and it's like, hey, look at this, I'm going to show you something, Whereas if you're playing full live the whole time, I guess depends on how crazy your live show is, and everything. But it can maybe be like everything's on 11 the whole time and you don't have that contrast of, here's the point where you stand and take photos or do you go and get a drink or what's going on. So, but yeah, no, it's been nice to have that again, be able to do a little bit of improvising. Coming from a band background and playing instruments, like as much as you'd rehearse a set in a live band, you'd still have a section where you could all bust a solo and do something. And it's nice to be able to do that again in electronic music. Thanks, man. Let me see. We talked about placements of pads and stuff. Sounds are hit together. Yep. Oh, yeah, this is something I wanted to say too. When you're working on these kits, when you're building them up, what helps me a lot is to sequence what you gonna eventually end up playing, and then work on the sounds. So, like, if I was gonna put this in, let's put that on. I might put this in and go. Oh, sorry, the quantizer's on the wrong setting for recording. It's got to go on to triplets. It doesn't really matter what it plays though, actually. I'd set it up and then go to each sound and be adjusting the parameters for each one and dialing them in just the same way you'd mix down a record, all the same techniques. Do all your EQing, make sure sounds should be cutting off each other sound, like with choking and things. Get it sounding as perfect as you can, because then that way when you go to play it, it sounds like it's a finished record. And I often also have another bank where I've actually got a sample from the song in there, so I can flick back and forward and listen to it and go, how close am I getting to the thing? Because I want it to sound like the real thing, Yeah?
How long does it take you to go from start to finish typically? Like how long do you give yourself and how long does it actually take?
Years. No. Usually about once I figured out what I'm going to do, maybe a day, not like a full day, just like a day of doing a bit here and there, and eventually I figure it out by the end, and probably, just more practicing after that too. I think probably one of the longest bits is figuring out where I'm going to put the sounds on the pads that makes it physically possible to play it. Like this one, I had a couple of different layouts first where I was like trying some stuff, and then eventually found this layout and went, oh, that's so much easier. Okay, great. That's going to be awesome. Especially because it's got this section where this is in a triplet feel, and it's got this section where it has this like, I was like, how am I going to switch between that and play what it needs me to play? And like, you just eventually find the pattern and go, okay, like if it was laid out with these hands, it'd work better. So where can I put that hand? And you can duplicate kits. So I'd just make different versions and move them around, jam on them for a bit until I find one and go, oh, that's the easiest one. I'll go with that.
Do you give yourself like a time cutoff if it's taking too long? Do you like a threshold?
Not really. I've usually just got to get it done. Like, because it's like I really want to do it or something, and I'm like, I really want to do a new track, and I'll have a playlist of maybe 10 ones I'm choosing from, and I might flick through a few and start building kits out of a couple of them, and eventually get one that feels like it's most reasonably doable, and they're all ones I'd love to play as well, and my goal is just that one of them has to get done, so you just keep going till it's done, and usually it doesn't take that long, an hour or so, and you've got most of it up, and then you're spending the rest of the day kind of just working out where they go, bit of jamming, figuring it out, and